There's no, I just got a call, there's no audio.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I don't know, man. I don't know what it is.
Check it. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing,
Can
1, 2, 3.
anybody hear me talk?
Huh?
Is this from you?
Yes.
Do I need to read it before the meeting?
No.
Is it?
What are we talking about?
Any pushback on that?
Nope.
Police department.
I won't say excitement that I'm leaving, but no, there's no pushback.
Hey, is it, if it's all on, then okay, but I just got a call saying there's no audio.
If you give me another minute, I'd appreciate it. I gotta get my agenda. There's the agenda.
Jenna,
Jenna, you know how to turn that on?
I know it's not anybody's fault because Yvonne's not here.
I'm going to turn these two knobs up. Jeff, try it again. I turned two knobs up.
Okay, hold on a second.
Is this different from this? Is this different from my packet?
It may be.
Maybe one or two.
Can you hear?
All right, here we go.
This is too confusing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is customary for us to start with a pledge and a prayer, so I'll ask you to stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hummel?
Thank you, sir. Please bow our heads. Thank you, dear Lord, for this wonderful day that the town can come together with its representatives and consider the bills and the agenda that we have tonight. Please lead us in our decision that we have to make, that we make the correct decisions for our town people and for Fayette County. Be with us and lead, guide, and protect us in all we say and do. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. We do have a quorum. Mr. Sutton is out of town tonight, but we do have a quorum. I would ask that you review the agenda and additions and deletions. If anybody has anything.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to remove from the consent agenda item number E to discuss regarding Resolution 2321.
Okay. All right, we'll pull that off the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I have two changes.
Okay, is that it, Ms. Humphrey?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mayor, first is under old business, item A, resolution 2302. We would ask that be referred to your next meeting. Item 15A, resolution 2302. We ask that be referred to your March meeting.
Okay, defer to March, okay, we'll pull it down to March.
And then under item 17, resolutions, item E, resolution 2325, we would ask that be withdrawn from the agenda.
Okay, okay. All right, anybody else got anything? Okay, we will proceed with that. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the additions and changes?
So move.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor
Second.
Wiggins, have a motion, have a second by Mr. Palmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move on then. I will ask you to review the minutes from our regular meeting of January 19th, and I'll take a motion when you're ready.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Have a motion to approve,
The
accept
minutes.
the minutes from regular meeting on January 19th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'll ask you to move down to B, review the minutes of special meeting on February 6th. I'll take a motion when you're ready.
Mr. Mayor, I have some corrections to make. On the people who were present, it was listed as Vice Mayor Sutton. That needs to be corrected to Vice Mayor Adrian Wiggins.
Ms. Yvonne, she's already corrected it.
I'll corrected that, and also Debbie with an E, and that's all we have.
Okay?
That's it.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion, Mr. Case. Do I have a second?
I second it.
May I have a second from Ms. Hummel? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. Our comments are open for any Oakland citizen to be heard on items and concerns not included on this agenda. Citizens are able to be recognized by chair and come to the front of the room before speaking. Each speaker shall state their name and their address for the record. The mayor and board of aldermen shall make no decision or consideration of action of the citizens' comments, except to refer to the town manager for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for a board of aldermen and mayor meeting at a later date. Speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes and shall be allowed only one subject unless approved by the mayor. Now, having said that, does anybody wishes to speak? No one wishes to speak? We will then move on. Okay. I have no comments other than Mr. J. Do we need to talk about it right now? It'd be a good time to talk about when the city hall is going to be closed for the work on
I
it.
was gonna do it in my report.
Okay, then I'll refer it to you. Let you do it then.
Mr. Mayor, planner?
Huh?
Planner? Planning?
Planning. Oh, you mean we got to talk about that?
Perhaps.
I don't know.
I don't know.
You can move on, Mayor.
Would like to inform the board tonight that Mr. Carton has decided he doesn't want to leave us, that he loves us, and that we are very glad to have him staying on. Mr. Fisher has a question.
Yes, sir.
Did you go up there and look and find out that the grass is greener?
It was frozen at the time.
See?
Yes, I did, and I enjoyed it.
And I mentioned that to you. You know how cold it gets.
All right, well, having said that, Mr. Carton, we're glad to have you back. Thank you. All right, I will move on to comments from the alderman. I will start with Mr. Case. Do you have anything tonight?
No, not unless we get an update on the census.
Yes, sir. It's later on the agenda. but-
Okay, that's fine.
All right, Ms. Hummel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a comment to make, a question. Actually, I've received some emails and a telephone call from our citizens that's concerned about the quickness of response from the mayor action line. They had said that they had made like 4 or 5 requests to the mayor action line regarding some chickens or some roosters in our town, and they contacted me and said they can't get anybody to respond to the mayor's action line. Is there something that we need to know what's going on with that?
Well, I'm sorry, but that's not accurate. I personally responded to that. Now, I think part of, in fairness, I think with the issues we've had with our phone system at Building and Codes, we have had some problems. But when that matter was referred to me, I responded that day. I responded later that day with some additional information. I do not doubt at all that a rooster is a nuisance early of a morning.
OMG.
And, but we're back to the issue of, how do we address noise complaints? And our building and codes people have been up there and there's not been any noise. Animals, fowls are allowed in the backyard, but they can't run loose. I mean, while this has been one specific complaint, I'm aware of chickens in backyards in several locations in Oakland.
Well, Mr. Johnson, I was also concerned when I saw the responses back on that. Was my understanding that our code enforcement couldn't go out there and give a citation to the rooster because they got to catch him in the act? Is that what it is?
I hope the sentence structure was better than that.
What kind of animals are you
Yeah.
actually allowed in your backyard?
You can, I'd have to pull the ordinance for sure, but I don't believe you're allowed to have,
I think it's,
hogs, cattle, things like that.
I think the term is domesticated in the ordinance.
Domesticated, okay.
Now, that is subject to interpretation as well.
That goats and stuff?
I know Arnold Pig was
Yeah, that's right.
But again, if I may, Ms. Hummel, I don't, minimize the people who have called about the problem. I really don't. But we're somewhat handicapped in what we can do.
But I'm also concerned, besides Mr. Rooster, I'm concerned about how timely are the requests on the mayor's action line being, is it because of the changing the buildings and the telephone and all that is why they're perhaps not being answered, that some may consider not in a timely fashion?
What we normally do when, the Mayor's Action Center's checked, I won't say every day, but almost every day. Depending on the nature of the question or the complaint, it's referred to the department that would normally handle that. So there may be some lag there. There may be some lag there as well.
In addition to that, Ms. Hummel, I have a phone that I have a number and I get calls. A lot of the patrons, when I ran, I gave out a card that had my phone number on it. So I get a lot of calls at home, and I do the same thing. I either try to answer them or I refer them to the department. We make an effort to do it in a timely manner. So if anybody calls, you may have one of those cards, or you have my phone number, so feel free to give it to me.
Is there anybody here from the Loud Rooster department tonight?
Actually, there is.
We've been out, but I haven't heard of it. Okay. If there are no other, anything else, Ms. Holmes?
No, that's it.
All right, Mr. Fisher.
I've got nothing.
Okay, Mr. Wiggins.
Well, I've got something. I've had several conversations with many citizens over the years, and people keep asking me, there's some misinformation out there, and I kind of want to clear it up tonight, and let's face facts. I have friends that won't move to Oakland or Fayette County for one reason and one reason only. The state of our, well, two reasons now, loud roosters, and the state of our public schools in Fayette County. A lot of people want to know what Oakland's going to do about the schools. Oakland has nothing to do with these schools. We have two schools located within our town. These are county schools run by the school board at the county. But we're growing as a county and as a town. And we keep telling the people that it's too expensive for us to run our own school system. And I know in the past a couple of studies have been done. I don't know how far they got. But people don't like that it's not our problem and it's too expensive. This is just me talking out loud. I'm not proposing anything. I don't want to vote. I just want, if we have somebody that maybe has some experience in the school system, that can maybe look up, what would it cost us to buy the schools that are in Oakland? What would it cost us to build a high school or add on to the middle school to make it feasible for a high school? Would the citizens accept a property tax increase to pay for those schools? Because if we get our education system better in Oakland, we will attract more people. Just me passing on a few thoughts.
Mr. Wiggins, I do happen to know somebody who has some experience in that area. If the members of the board would like, and I will put it this way, I will be glad to do some research on that, put together some cost factors on that, and give it to you at a later date for you to look at and make possible consideration. Is there any, would that be acceptable to everybody?
It is, but can I make a comment?
Yes, sir, you can.
Before I guess it was probably 2-3 years ago, I think Mr. Minor was here. We paid a firm, $8,000, wasn't it? To do
It was Dr. Fike's firm that did
the research on this.
Tim Fike's one of the most respected educators
Yes.
He came back unfeasible.
Mr. Johnson?
A copy of that report is in my office.
I'm not saying anything other than I'll be glad to do some research and report back to you.
I ain't got any problem with that. I just thought I'd throw that in.
I
that it's
appreciate
been-
that.
That
No,
it's
that's
been
good.
done
And at
before,
least when
about 3
people
years
ask,
ago.
we can tell them that it's possible or it's not.
We will get you some information and we can have a set discussion on it and get it out to the public at that time. Anything else, Mr. Wood?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Johnson, I believe it's your turn.
All right. To answer Mr. Cates' question from a moment ago, this was as of this morning. Our census work was 61.4% complete. That's based upon our utility billing mailing list of 4,407 units. Our average household size of those that are responding is 2.37 people per unit. We are going to be working on Saturday, going door to door. We'll have a big push next week, going door to door. We are earnestly asking citizens to cooperate. Go online and fill out the forms. If somebody knocks on your door, provide the information. The information is confidential. It's being used only for head count and tabulation. No other purposes involved. But we're down to the final 10 or 12 days to get this wrapped up. We have about trying to see the number here. We've got about 1,300 homes that have not responded.
Mr. Cates, I would say to you that I went out last Saturday, and I got from Steve, I got the areas around the streets around me that, the homes that had not responded, and I worked last Saturday, and I had a lot of people who we were showing had not returned their thing. They told me they had mailed it. So I told Mr. Johnson, I think we've got a problem with the post office.
Ain't no doubt.
I think the post office I think there's a lot of them didn't get delivered properly and have not got returned because of the post office.
According to what we have so far, what would you estimate the finals be? Just a ballpark figure.
10,400,
What did the 20 census show us?
8,936.
That's a lot of money for Oakland.
That's a lot of money for Oakland that is being left on the table if we don't get this successfully completed. Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you know of anybody, please ask them to fill out that form. If you've got one, please fill it out and get it back to us.
OaklandCensus.org. Go online and the form's online.
It's a considerable amount of money for this city.
Was it $269 per person?
165.
165?
169.
Oh, per person?
Yeah.
I thought it was 165, yeah.
165.
Yeah.
All right, anything else, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I want to inform the board and the public at large. On Friday, March 3rd, the town hall and the town services will be open. However, we're doing a computer migration that day, beginning at 8 a.m. We will not be able to process utility bills. We will not be able to process property tax, anything like that. We'll not be able to process traffic tickets other than just not cash, but a check, and you hand us the bill. We think the conversion will take less than the morning, but we got to build in some time. But we're installing a new main domain computer and relocating several of our servers with that. It's disruption, but when this is done, we're going to have some redundancy and some capabilities that we do not have now. The board will remember about 6 or 8 months ago, the police department computer went down and we had no backup. We had to get a loaner. This is continuing the process to update our systems. And one of the things we're doing, they won't be tied together, but we're going to put the police department servers and the city hall servers in one room that will be secure.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay. Is that it, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, department chair, director's reports. Do we have any department director who wishes to make a report tonight? We have your written one, so we,
Yeah.
okay. Any questions for department director? All right. We may need to start imposing a fine on phones that are not cut off.
Sound like a winner.
Confiscate them.
I know you can't hear it.
All right, moving on, you gave us a report on the census.
It's green.
It's not being, Nolan still hasn't fixed their, web
Mr. Mayor, may I address that?
cam.
Yes,
and,
go ahead.
We had made several calls to this vendor. We had something scheduled for today, this morning, and it fell through. And I think, in all honesty, I think it was a legitimate reason it fell through. We're still trying to get the vendor and our computer consultant and Yvonne in the same room at the same time. We've not given up on that, but it didn't happen before tonight's meeting.
All we can do is apologize to the public that it's not going out like it should. I don't know what else.
All the lights over here are green.
Okay. All right, we will move on then.
I got a question.
Yes, sir?
Is it not some way we could get Mr. Tom involved in this and push that harder than what we're doing? We're just fighting a can.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Is it some way we can get our town lawyer involved in this? Cause we just, every week it's the same thing, and it's been like this for 2 or 3 years.
And we keep
And
paying the bill.
it's time to do something, either get rid of it or get another one or get it fixed. And can you put some pressure on somebody, Mr.
Send out
Matter?
a letter and see what effect it has.
Okay.
I'd suggest that the mayor,
Maybe Mr. Tom, you and Jake, Mr. Jake can get together and y'all work out something.
Do we pay a monthly service for this?
No, we own it.
So we bought the thing and does it come with any kind of
Warranty or anything.
service agreement?
it did, but we fought it with a former mayor all this time, and it never got anything done till it ran out.
One of those things we inherited.
Now we're stuck with it.
I know.
We inherited this and we're trying to correct the problem that's probably has no end.
I used to be one of the ones that complained about it.
We-
And I
we
still
fought it-
am.
We fought it 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
after we bought it. It never worked right.
All right, I will move on. Next is, public hearing, proposed town of Oakland Urban Community Growth Policy Map Amendments. Mr. J?
As part of the process to update the urban growth plan countywide, each city can propose changes to their urban growth boundary map. As part of that, we have to have a minimum of 2 public hearings, and tonight is one of those public hearings. Ed has provided the map. You can see 3 areas in yellow. One is out Highway 64 west, one is 194 north, and one is 196 north. We are proposing that those areas be added to our urban growth plan. We're also proposing that a small area in the turquoise, Ed, be taken out of our urban growth plan.
Yeah, the small area south of Highway 94, south of Highway 94 and 196 is within the Cypress Creek area, and we're proposing that area to be removed on both sides of 196. That is shaded in the light blue.
Why?
The reason for that is it's basically all in the floodplain. And, you know, my thoughts on a floodplain, you have marginal land, we conserve as much of the floodplain we should have for a watershed. It's marginal land to develop, so why have it in our area? The cities are urban in nature, where you have higher densities. That should remain in the county.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. J. Appreciate it.
Anybody else wish to ask a question or make a comment on our urban growth plan? I will say that the planning commission for the city of Oakland did approve this, and we will be meeting with the county mayor and his group on this. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I didn't do it officially.
No,
but I
you
did
didn't.
not officially.
That's right.
I will again state, is there anybody here that wishes to speak? Okay, I will now declare the public hearing closed. We will move on. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are deemed by the mayor and board of aldermen to be non-controversial and routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. The items on the consent agenda will not be individually discussed. Any member of the board of aldermen or mayor may, our town staff desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed and placed in the regular agenda. It will then be placed on the agenda in regular order. Requests to remove items from the consent agenda are not debated. As we have further, as you have noticed earlier, members of the board, we did pull E, Resolution 2321 out at Ms. Hummel's request. The other items on the consent agenda are Resolution 2314, authorizing a change order in the amount of $1,655 for Wagner General Contractors. And then Resolution 2318, authorizing a one-year renewal of construction agreement with Building Construction Company for Public Works projects. And C, Resolution 2319, approval of subdivision development agreement with Hidden Springs Investment LLC and Hidden Springs Development S Corp Incorporated for the waters of Hidden Springs Phase D2. And the last one on this agenda is Resolution 2320, agreement with the King Engineering for inspection services on the waters of Hidden Springs Phase D2. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda A, B, C, and D with the exception of number E.
Which we've already pulled out. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Wiggins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher opposes.
Me too.
Okay, we have a tie vote, which means I get to vote.
There you go. It's your
I
birthday.
vote in favor of accepting the consent agenda. So the vote will be 3-2. All right, moving on, under old business. Ordinances, second final reading. Do I hear a motion to hear, ordinance 2301?
Motion to hear.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Wiggins. Do I have a second?
I second.
Have a second from Ms. Hummel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. J.
This reflects the contributed capital for subdivision development within the corporate limits during the past fiscal year.
Have any questions? I'll take a motion when you're ready.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion from Mr. Fisher to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Case. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving down to B. Have a motion to hear ordinance 2302, amending the city code title 18 charter chapter 5 on step systems, consideration of amending to include town attorney's revisions. Have a motion to hear.
Motion here.
Have a motion from Mr. Case. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Ms. Hummel. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Mr. Tom, is this you or Mr. J? Well, I guess I can just mention that the revisions were not, I would not even classify them as substantive. Blake did an excellent job in drafting the bulk of this. I just kind of put it more in legalese form, and so I think that you've had a chance Okay, sir. Any questions for Mr. Thomas? I'll take a motion when you're ready.
We have, 300 houses that are on, that's gonna be subject to this, correct?
That's what I understood from the presentation the other night.
We have none now.
Of course. And some of us have had a little issue with getting reports back to saying that some of these things aren't working out right. And I'm sure we talked about it over at the work session, and said, something's not going on. Is there any way to pull out of this after we let all 300 houses go there and say, okay, now we're just trying to go back to normal?
No.
Or are we stuck, not with them, but with any future development?
Mayor, could I respond in two ways?
Okay, Mr. Johnson?
First off, I think that the first hurdle that we have to ensure is that they are installed properly. And we're already setting up procedures internal where they will be inspected before as they're installed, before they're accepted. To answer the second part of your question, and I could stand to be corrected, but I believe the only alternative, if we say we're not going to allow these in the future, would be to go back in and put a standard sewer system in that development after the fact.
And why I'm saying that is because in 7 years, we will know if things have been installed properly. Things fail after about 5 to 7 years. Somebody help me out here. Am I crazy? Should we get into this or not?
Well, you are crazy,
Yeah.
but I don't
Water Department.
yes.
Blake?
Blake, you want to come up and address this in your professional opinion?
Can somebody cut that air conditioner off?
Hey, Chief, can we cut the air off? It's cold in here,
Oh, it feels good.
please.
Go ahead, sir.
So, I mean, the short answer is we're kind of bound to these systems in at least one development that's already started because that infrastructure is already in the ground. Like Jay stated, if we wanted to go back, we would have to put in a gravity system. And that would mean different size lines at a grade that would allow it to gravity feed to a lift station. And that's part of the hangup is that the sewer main itself is of a size that will not allow for multiple lift stations on it. So due to that constriction, I mean, we're just kind of bound. If we want to develop out that way, we're bound to go with step systems. The only other alternative would be to put a larger pipe in the ground that could accommodate multiple lift stations for, your gravity type systems.
So once we cross this threshold, there's no going back, basically.
Probably not without a substantial cost in rebuilding.
And that would be town's responsibility, right?
Yes.
I don't want to speak, I assume it would be yes.
What if we don't approve this tonight? Are we looking at lawsuits from developers who've already put in infrastructure?
I don't want to speak to that because I'm not a lawyer.
Mr. Minor?
Well, I mean, I would want to consult with Ed on exactly what developments are in place that may have already been advised that, their plats will be, that the lots on their plat will be allowed to have, these step systems.
Ed, you want to comment on the planning, how the planning commission has looked at this and all that?
Well, we have differing ones. I mean, I would have to go look and see, we have Hickory with 7, which is behind where Alderman Fisher is at. That one has not had their construction plans approved. Well, they got their construction plans approved. If you've got those approved, then that is, we have blessed your system. I mean, we've blessed, that's how it's gonna be designed, we've approved that. Cypress Creek is already under construction, their first phase, they've just put in the road. I imagine they'll be coming for a final plat on that one. So that's already in the ground. So to answer your question, that horse is well out of the
Mr. Fisher, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if, this is a question for the whole board. If you have that level of possible reservations, then we may want to sit down again with the planning commission and determine whether or not we want to allow any additional developments. But if that is the decision, then that requires a whole series of other decisions on replacing, paralleling, whatever the existing force main on Highway 64 West. It will require a series of lift stations out 64 West. I mean, despite what we may have as reservations on this, the cost to change going forward will be substantial.
Also, you would, for those developments that are already advanced to a point where there is legal commitment on the part of the town to allow the step system, you're still going to need regulations in place for those systems, which means that this or something like it needs to be passed.
I just feel like I'm in a bind because all this was decided before I got here. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's going to cost a lot of money to do it the right way. This is going to cost us a lot of money in the future. This is going to cost us a lot of money in the future. This is going to cause us problems. I'm not even going to go through, I think last time this came up, I did a very good recitation of my due diligence and the number of people that I talked to. You were very instrumental in that, and I appreciate that. I'm going to do what needs to be done, I guess, but I don't like it.
Okay. Any other comments?
Or one of y'all. And the reason they went to this, it's a lot cheaper to go this way than it is to put in pumping stations.
It's not an economic that I perceive, it's a functional issue. You know, with our existing line that we have on the south side, for past boards and past planning commissions to approve it, the only way to do it was a step system. We could not add in a conventional sewer system.
Cause that was
Did
because,
not have the capacity of a lot of lift stations and the rest, and, yeah, it was not gonna work.
That's
So
just-
that was the decision made in the past, yes.
the pipes are big enough just for the liquid, right? Not the
Well,
solids.
Well, you have that, but then you also we had the issue, we still have the issue of our treatment
Hey,
plant.
Jay,
So we had
are all
those
these
two
resolutions
parallel
what this is?
points, and I think that's kind of
Are all
lost
of these resolutions what this is with the numbers on them?
Yeah, the numbers on it.
This is too
treatment
confusing.
plant, that was the reason we looked at the
It's
steps,
not your fault.
not to stop
not
all
Yvonne's
development
fault.
to the west,
This is too
but we
confusing.
were reaching capacity, and we cannot continually add to that system, so
You need to
we're
change your
addressing that
procedure.
issue as well.
Okay.
I'd like to show you my
All right, Mr. Johnson, you have a further comment?
And please, I'm not advocating for step systems. I've heard some of the horror stories as well. But I'm also aware of a number of locations where step systems are working and working well. So I think it goes back maybe to the type of soil, maybe how they were installed, maybe how they've been maintained. But there are step systems that I'm aware of that are functioning. Now, I think, I will say one thing though, to your point, I don't know exactly, but I would guess that they're all probably less than 10 or 12 years old.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I do want to commend Mr. Coker and his department for doing an excellent job in addressing my concerns that we had in the previous meetings regarding the step system. And I agree what we heard before in the meetings it was imperative that these have to be installed correctly. And we heard the horror stories a little bit from Atoka that relayed information that they have problems with it because mainly due with installation of it's new. We're going forward with this, and I do think we're going to be doing our due diligence, and I think Mr. Coker and his department is very much on top of this.
Okay.
I think the big key on this one is gonna be the maintenance. It's gonna be people that take care of them. For them to understand that it's not a septic system. I mean, it's not a sewer system, you have a septic system, and there's a care that needs to be involved in it. If they don't, then yes, it can be very costly.
So,
I will say, it's in my department's best interest for us, like you said, to try and do our due diligence. And we've worked very closely with the design engineer to try and streamline this and make sure that it's gonna be as easy as possible for us. I will advocate either way, but I will say if you're considering cost of a new force main versus the overall cost of this years down the road as we start to replace pumps, replace parts, that is all the burden on us. So, you know, there's much to think about there as far as the economics of that goes.
Okay?
It has to be installed every step of the way. It has to be monitored.
And we are aware of that, and his department is setting up a system for that. And so I think we've addressed that issue. Any other comments?
did you get your report up that you were gonna pass along to the homeowners for what to and not to do to protect these things and?
Yes, sir. And I've also, you know, brainstormed and thought about ways to do some public outreach and public education. Because, you know, just a flyer you pass out, that, I don't know if that's gonna be enough to really get people to understand the seriousness of this. And, you know, we've tried to draft this ordinance such that we can pass the burden of cost on to them if they misuse it. And maybe if, you know, a couple people in the neighborhood bear the burden of that cost, word will get around. You know, that's one hope.
Can we get the real estate people that's selling these homes with this in it to inform them of some of this?
I'm no realtor, Mr.
Yeah, I
Meyer.
mean, agents are obligated to inform, potential buyers what kind of sewer system the property has. That's part of the property disclosure requirements in Tennessee.
Okay, I'm just wondering that,
Okay. Any other questions?
so.
Need a motion?
I make a motion to approve it with Ed's recommendation and his recommendation.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second.
I'll second.
I have a second from Ms. Hummel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, all, we'll have 100% on that. Okay. Moving on to C. Have a motion to hear ordinance 2303, amending the city code title 12, building and utility codes, chapter 1.
So moved.
Have a motion, Ms. Hummel, have a second.
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Wiggins, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Mr. J.
We discussed this at your last meeting. This changes the standard from 24 inches to 18 inches
I thought it was 16.
16.
16 inches.
for the rafters. I would ask for your consideration to amend section 2. Based upon the discussion last month, you wanted this amendment effective upon its adoption. If you recall, you wanted to change that, so if you could amend section 2, that this amendment shall be effective upon its adoption. Is that the proper wording?
Make a motion.
Anybody have any questions?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Rex, would you come forward, please?
Need to pass that quick.
Thought we hashed this
Oh,
out.
he's jacking
Jay, I
home.
don't even have that.
Thank you, Mr. Rex. I have a question for you.
I know what it's about.
I've tried to do some research on this and try to ask a lot of questions about it. I understand the difference between the 24-inch and the 16-inch. But what I got a question on is, that goes a little bit deeper, is the use of the plywood decking. I've done my research, and it seems like on 24 center, you probably get about 5/8 of an inch of plywood decking, versus on the 16-inch rafters, you might be getting around 7/16 plywood decking. So what in our code, what will they be using if we change it to the 16-inch? What type decking in the code does it say? 7/16?
Half inch.
So that would be required for them to move to the,
It just gives you one more structure to burn through before it matches one our.
okay. So that's already in code. Is that in our code as well? Is that stated in there? So if we go to 16, all the other builders, except for,
All habitable homes will be 16 on center, where there's trusses that are come stamped from an engineer, still 16 on center, even if it's set up for 8 foot on center.
Question I would have, how many of our builders that you work with now are currently using 16 centers?
Everybody except
One.
Okay. So that is pretty much the standard, so.
Okay, want to make sure, and thank you, Rex.
All right, any other questions?
I make a motion to pass it.
With the amendment, with the
Yes.
with amendments?
Yeah.
Okay. Have a motion from Mr. Case, have a second from Mr. Fisher, all in favor?
Aye.
Does pass, any opposed? Okay.
And that comes in effect when?
Tomorrow.
Upon adoption, that was the part of the amendment. Okay. Under old business, resolution, we've pulled resolution 2302 down. We'll move down to resolution 2310. Have a motion to hear resolution 2310.
Make a motion here.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second. Mr. J.
Mr. Mayor, if the board will allow, this may take a few minutes of discussion. At your meeting last month, we reported that Work Road Extended has extensive base failure. We also reported that there are two letters of credit on file with the town, totaling approximately $54,000, I believe it is, for that road. The challenges are several. One is that road needs to be completely rebuilt. Just a normal resurfacing paving project like you normally do, it won't work. The road will fail. If we do make improvements to that road, last year the town approved a new development called Carrington, which is located to the south of Fairway Hills. The only access to the Carrington development is Work Road Extended. So Mr. Minor and I have had a number of discussions with Ken King and others. What can we do to that road to make it safe, to make it passable, that's cost effective on the short term, recognizing at some point we're gonna have to rebuild that road, and the current cost estimate is $190,000 to do that. I think we've all come to the conclusion now is not the time to spend $190,000. So
Are you gonna be using it for construction?
yes.
Well, you wouldn't wanna spend that much money to do it and then tear it up and have to redo it again.
Exactly.
Didn't I ask for a list of
So,
names?
if I may, Mr. Minor, would you kind of pick up there and
So, I can't remember whether it was at a workshop or a prior meeting, but there was discussion about what, if any, security is in place for Work Road, because, of course, this was done, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago.
2002 is when the
Okay, so there was a very unusual, a final plat was recorded just for Work Road Extended. And, there was a question about whether there was a development agreement related to that. I know Alderman Sutton had suggested that we reach out to the city engineer, which we have. Yvonne could not locate one. Long story short, no one has been able to locate a development agreement for that road. We have, however, been able to locate the two CDs that I have handed out to you that, although they're not specifically referencing, the plat, it does reference Work Road Extended, and these are CDs that we have confirmed, one, of course, with First Citizens, the other one with Bank of Fayette. These were CDs that were created by the town of Oakland, not by some developer like a developer would in pledging a letter of credit. This is actual Oakland money that has been in place, and as you can see from the first page that I've created, one was set up at Bank of Fayette in May of 2011. The citizens, will be allowed to be withdrawn, without penalty at any time. That's a little over $36,000. And then the funds of almost $19,000 at Bank of Fayette, there would be a small early withdrawal, but that CD matures, early May. So,
I guess my concern on this is, and Mr. Creton, you making, why do we allow these? Is there not some way when they stretch them out for a long period of time like this, the development of, and we don't build the road until the end? We obviously aren't gonna have enough money if they put the money in up front.
so that's why our current development agreements require that the final course of asphalt goes down before the final plat is recorded. There is a trade-off, as we all know, about continuing construction traffic on top of a final course of asphalt, but as we also know, that final course adds more structural stability to the overall road itself. And we've now gone, I think Mr. King tells us, from a one and one half inch base and 1 1/2 inch surface course to now a 2-inch base and a 1 1/2 inch surface course, which adds even more structural stability. This is not something under our current
Yes, I understand.
procedures that would ever happen.
My question, I didn't phrase my question right, I apologize, Mr. Stein. My question, I guess, is how many more have we got like this? That we've got money put up, and it's obviously not gonna be enough money because they've stretched it out over a number of years. Do we have any more like this?
I'm just trying to think through. We may have a couple, but, you know, offhand, I can't definitively tell you we have this one or that one.
Okay.
I think we're okay, you know, we may have one or two that are out there.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that the way that the prior agreements were written, because at the time, it was like you put your base in, and then you would not put your final code, your surface code, until 80–90% of the houses were built. Well, in a great economy, that gets built in 1 or 2 years.
Right.
You know, it takes care of itself. Normally, what you would do is you would say, in 3 or 4 years, if it's not built, that's why we have the bond, you would have the bond at least 120–150% of the cost, deal with inflation. If it's not built at the time, we hire a contractor, they come through and get it done.
Okay.
You know, or the developer builds it before the contract's done. But in this one, you had a percentage basis. You know, you can't change that, that's just the way it is.
We live with this and hope, and we've changed it for the citizens to know that that will not occur again, but we may have 1 or 2 more involved.
I got a question.
I'm just thinking, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Mr. J, and then I'll go to Mr. Cates.
To answer your question in a different way a little bit, I think in fiscal year '24, our paving will finish out all of the letters of credit we have with existing subdivisions where we were putting down the final code. I think we've just about
Okay.
worked through all of those.
Okay.
As for Wirt Road extended, and this would come back to the board before the contract was awarded. What we're proposing is we would bid out where a contractor would go in and regrade that road, compact what's there, and put down, was it an inch or inch and a half?
I think you said an inch and a
An
half.
inch and a half of asphalt. That is a temporary solution of a couple of years. It's not a permanent solution, but it would address our immediate need, and it could be done for less money than what these, we think less money than what these 2 letters of credit are.
Mr. Cates.
How much of this road are we talking about?
It runs from the curve on Wirt Road, south to the dead end, which is the new Carrington development.
Is any of,
About
2,000.
2,000 feet.
is any of this in the county?
No, sir. It was all annexed and deeded by plat to the town of Oakland in 2013.
So we're gonna take an easy fix now. What's it gonna cost us later?
$190,000.
I'm a simple man and I ask simple questions. And I cannot believe in the world that we live in where people keep records on every single thing that we can't find a record of who built this road and it's got people's names on it. I've been coming up here to these meetings for years and I see these developers, they come up here and they get these projects and they make millions of dollars and then they leave and our taxpayers have to go in and clean up their mess.
One of the issues.
I'm unhappy. I want names. There's probably developers listed on there that are still operating in Oakland. And if they want me to keep voting for phase 2 this and phase 2 that, somebody's going to go out there and fix this road and save our taxpayers $190,000.
This road was actually in the county. And the city is the one that put up this one CD because our utilities were in the county road. That's how far back this goes.
So if somebody puts up a CD, and right here it says, this one was put up in 12/12/13. 10 years down the line, we only got $2,000 more from it, but the price, that $34,000, and how much is this one part's gonna cover? And we need 100 and how much?
190,000.
This, I guess I'm asking is, why would we ask for 1/3, not even 1/3, 1/6?
One
What
quarter.
the real price would be in 10 years, and this one's 12 years underneath here. And we got 17,000 from it. How much is that road gonna,
And
I'm gonna answer
we're
that.
screwing
and
everybody
I don't-
here.
I don't mean to be sarcastic. Did anybody evaluate the base of the road when the city accepted it from the county?
No idea, we
And-
weren't
and
here
what-
then.
What we're talking about here is going back and putting in a proper base and putting a proper asphalt surface on it so it will last. At some point, now, that's the 190,000. The proposal from Mr. King, based upon his analysis, is the road needs to be rebuilt.
Mr. Mullins, are you back there?
well, I just want to make a point right quick.
Let me ask one
This
question.
one we take a minute.
Okay.
We keep saying 190,000. This is why we're not being sarcastic or petty or anything. This is $198,656.20. If we're going to round up, let's call it 200,000, which is what it is. Because if we started this project today, it's going to be higher than this. And I do feel sorry for the people that have to drive up that road. I drove my car down at one time. I'll never do it again. But
Mr. Mullins,
I am not good. I am not good with this.
in your opinion, and I value your opinion since you've been around all these roads for a lot of years, this road is not usable in its present condition.
No.
And we desperately need to do something to it.
Put crushed gravel on it.
Put 5 ton on it.
Put crushed gravel on it.
We passed on it the other day, we put 5 tons of asphalt, but that's putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound,
Yes, sir.
in my opinion.
Put that crushed gravel on
All
it.
right. So in your opinion, from your viewpoint, I know that I agree with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Tom, because I've used chip and seal in some other projects. In your opinion, will this last 3 or 4 years?
If you put chip and seal on it, it will last long enough to do what y'all are trying to do.
Okay.
Trying to pay for it.
If y'all want to know these questions of the people that done this, I talked with Peanut, or Donnie Culver before, and I can get you all the names you want. I do know a bank took it for several years, and it just sat. The guy that developed it went belly up. And then a bank took it, had it for several years, and it just sat, deteriorated. But Doug Swink, Donnie Culver, they are the ones that actually finished that road. I do know this.
One of the problems, just from a
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Go ahead.
One of the problems that we always have to consider from a legal standpoint is, first of all, we don't have a development agreement and we've got a final recorded plat. Typically, when a final recorded plat is of record, after that warranty period expires, the street
I would be grateful for anybody that can get me the simple things that I ask for
And
to do my job and vote.
according to the plat, developer was an LLC. I haven't checked to see whether that LLC is still in good standing, but I have nothing else.
It doesn't matter. Somebody had to sign and be on that LLC.
I don't disagree with you on that.
Would you like to refer this to your March work session?
Yes.
Well,
I don't know that it'd do any good to refer it.
not in my, if I get what I want by March, maybe. I asked for it in January.
Okay,
Y'all do what you want.
what is the, Mr. Cates, are you making a motion?
I make a motion, we table it and do it in a workshop.
I have a motion, Mr. Cates,
Well-
to table it.
We can't vote on anything in a workshop. We can just talk
We
it to
can
death some more.
discuss it and then bring it up in the next meeting.
Well,
Maybe
we're
that'll help
discussing
your-
it right now. I don't know what else we're gonna discuss.
Okay, I have a motion, but I
I'm
haven't
sorry,
got a
Mayor.
second yet. Do I have a second? I have no second on Mr. Cates' motion. Do you have a motion, Mr. Wiggins?
I do not.
Okay. Then,
Eventually, this is gonna have to get paid, done,
yeah,
and move on.
we need to fix this road.
Well,
And we can fix it according to Mr. Mullins and.
for
according to
$190,000.
No, we can do a temporary fix and get it to where people can drive on without tearing up their cars.
And how much does that cost?
Mr. J, how much does it
A
cost? for
ballpark
the
estimate, I was told, was $40,000.
And then in a few years,
$200.
$40,000, what it was gonna cost then to do it right? $190,000?
Plus inflation.
So then we're looking at $230,000.
Mr. Minor, would the board allow me as town manager to have the public works department go out and grade that road back to a gravel road temporarily?
Can we not put crushed gravel on it? Let limestone gravel and hold for 2 years?
I don't wanna
No,
commit to 2 years.
you have to brush up the asphalt. You can't lay gravel on top of asphalt, it won't work. It'll pit out.
I'm
and it'll
talking
be
about
worse than it
regrading
already
it,
is.
I'm talking about taking it down and regrading.
Toting it down.
Take it all the way down to grade level and start over.
I'm coming back, and I'm not trying to put the board in awkward position any more than we are right now. We can't leave that road like it is.
Well, I agree with Mr. Cates, and I agree with Town Manager Jay Johnson about what you just suggested. I think that's kind of what Alderman Cates also said, to do that, and, but I'm not agreeing to the 40,000 and then down the road. But if we could do that option that you talked about, yes, a temporary fix of getting them to do it, I'd go for that.
Mayor, the fire chief would like to be recognized.
Mr. Chief, would you please step forward?
There's also a safety issue with this road. Today, we went down the road. You're talking about a $500,000 fire engine, may get broke, may not, or we go 3 miles an hour. We were down the road today, and it's unacceptable. We have to utilize that road to get to those people.
What do you suggest?
Give me a road I can drive on.
Okay, that's not,
I don't care what, I don't care what.
that's
it
what
is,
I'm
as long
asking.
as it's
What
a
do you
surface.
need on there? Gravel? Sand?
What will hold 60,000 pounds?
Mr. Mullins?
Crushed
No,
gravel?
That's what I'm asking you.
Okay, I'm
I've got
gonna
it
try
at
to
the
get you an
farm,
answer
been
right
driving
here.
on it for 5 years.
Mr. Mullins?
If we don't do something, we just put gravel down, that heavy truck start running on it, it's never gonna work.
In your opinion, would a chip and seal hold up for several years and meet the fire chief's needs?
We're gonna put a base under it, we're gonna resoil cement it,
No.
I don't know, I don't think so.
Okay.
If we're not gonna resoil cement it, it won't last.
Basically, we're screwed.
Yes, exactly.
So we could either keep patching it,
I
or
would vote for this if I had my list of names.
we can pull all the asphalt up.
You gave me the name, Doug Swink and somebody else.
I can find out all the names in the morning, but I think the original owner is gone, I think he's deceased. The original person that went bankrupt or whatever happened.
I don't wanna cost more money than what we gotta do. If we gotta do it,
You gotta do it, you gotta do it.
If
you
he-
guys do what you want.
About this, I called,
If we regrade the road
Mhm.
and put down, I'm not gonna say 8 inches gravel, but put down a gravel base
we're gonna have to put a base under it, if we just grade it down to dirt and put that on, it's not gonna ever make it.
I think something that's been out there, you'll notice, if you look, the asphalt where it's come up, it's dirt underneath it.
It's been so long
How much will that
before,
cost now?
it's just falling through.
How much will that cost now?
To do what you said.
Well, I don't have a number, we didn't get that specific, we just talked about that as an option, was.
Well, if you're
putting
gonna make a
gravel down.
decision, we gotta have numbers.
Well, and here's my,
I don't disagree, I don't disagree.
and here's part of my problem. We just talked about a whole list of streets to pave. We got $800,000 and that's all we got. And we just approved, we're getting bids to pave this many streets for $800,000. Who are we gonna make mad when we say, well, we're only gonna do 600,000 because we gotta put 200 in this over here that somebody should have built years ago?
If the board makes a decision to spend 200,000, it would have to come out of next year's budget.
That's right.
After July 1.
Yes.
If you make the decision to spend the 40,000 to do the chip and seal, then
Comes from
that,
the
we have
bond.
the money to do that right
Comes from
now.
the bond.
I got one more question.
Yes, Mr. Case.
Mr. Tom, did you say this guy is bankrupt or has he passed away?
He said bankrupt.
I can find out every bit of that if y'all.
If he's got property somewhere, can we put a lien on that property to get that road?
The bank took that over.
Well, first of all, the developer was an LLC. I could certainly go on to the Secretary of State's website, pull the LLC, see when it was formed, see when it probably was dissolved, see who the registered agent for service of process is, which would give a name and an address. I mean, there are ways that we can, connect some dots and find our ways back to individuals that are, connected to this LLC.
Right.
I'm hearing too many questions. I think we need to pull this down and let you do some research. And maybe Dennis, you can get some stuff together to help contribute.
Let the
Figure out
fire
where
chief
we
make
are.
a comment
All right,
first.
chief,
That's fine, I'll wait.
does that satisfy you?
Well, we
Okay.
still need a motion.
Okay.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we table this until March.
Have a motion to table, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Gentlemen and ladies, this is gonna be an issue on some other, y'all might as well get ready. We're gonna deal with this road issue, we've been dealing with it for years, we're gonna continue to deal with it. There's no easy answer, there's no cheap answer. You just might as well expect it. That's my speech. Now then, let me see, where am I at, Mr.?
I done forgot. I'm lost.
You are at,
I'm at C.
old C under old business, Mayor.
Okay. Have a motion here, resolution 2313, authorizing professional service agreements with Renaissance Architects for schematic design of Fire Station 2 in the amount of $25,000. Review of architect's schematic process, this was continued from January 19th. Do I have a motion here?
So move.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Wiggins. Mr. J.
This was on your agenda last month. It is a budgeted item in the current FY '23 budget for the design of Fire Station number 2. This was tabled with the request that the board interview architects. I sent you an email, a memo earlier this week, went through how we got through the selection process. Renaissance Architects was the one that was recommended by the committee. The Board of Aldermen could interview Renaissance Architects. We interviewed, I believe it was 4 firms. The board could interview all 4 firms. We had 9 firms respond to the request for invitation and request for qualifications. The board could interview all 9 firms, or we could start the whole process over. My recommendation would be the board interview Renaissance and then make a decision after that whether you want to interview others or not.
When-
That's the board's decision.
When can we do that?
March 2nd.
Are you good with this resolution as it's written? Using Renaissance Group?
I am, but I also respect that you want to talk to them. I mean, that's fine. But I do think at some point we need to go ahead with whatever architect firm and get the schematic design of Fire Station 2 underway so we can apply for grants and loans in the future.
I make a motion, we'll interview them if it's okay with the board.
Would the board like, I have a motion to, do I have a second?
What day is March 2nd?
I guess the question,
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to, interview the architects. All in favor? Any opposed?
well, I got a question.
All right, Mr. Fisher.
So you're saying we should table this until the work session, interview Renaissance, and then come back with an answer in March,
Yes, sir.
Frank? Okay. Good, all right, we'll do that.
Okay,
Do we need a vote again?
Yep.
I now
No.
need to,
No, you don't.
do I have all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Mr. Fisher, you love to confuse me.
Well, I didn't, the way you guys talk is not English,
Okay,
or should I say speak?
all right. Moving on. Consideration of ordinances, first reading. Ordinance 2304, an ordinance amending the city code, Title 5, Finance, Chapter 3, Purchasing, providing an effective date, establishing public hearing date of March 16, 2023. Have a motion to hear.
Motion here.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Mr. J.
This amends slightly the existing wording of that section of the city code, and it provides that the Board of Aldermen by resolution shall establish policy and procedures for the use of town credit cards.
Okay. Any questions?
This just establishes procedures?
No, it establishes that you would adopt policy procedure by resolution. The way the old wording was, it put the policy procedures in the ordinance in the city code. And most of our policy and procedures are by resolution. The code book just says they shall be adopted. You've got an agenda item of about 2 more items that has the policy procedures, and it's like
Yes.
6 or 8 pages long. That really doesn't belong in the city code.
Motion to approve?
Have a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 2304.
Second.
Have a second, Vice Mayor Wiggins. The motion was made by Mr. Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Consideration of resolutions. Motion to hear resolution 2322, revising resolution 23149 by designating First Horizon Bank for town credit card. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion, Mr. Fisher. Mr. J.
Your city recorder and your finance director have worked diligently, getting information from various banks for a city credit card, and staff recommendation is that we go with First Horizon Financial.
Okay. Any questions? Have a motion.
Again, this just establishes them as our credit card company.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, Vice Mayor Wiggins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Ms. Hummel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving down to resolution 2323, resolution authorizing credit card use policy and procedures. Do I have a motion to hear?
Motion to hear.
Have a motion for Mr. Wiggins.
Second.
Have a second for Mr. Cates. I don't believe I have to have a second.
No.
Mr. J.
You have a very lengthy credit card policy with exhibits that the city recorder prepared, and this outlines in some detail how and when credit cards can be used and how and when they cannot be used.
Was it brought up how many, does all the head of departments get their own credit card like we discussed with a number or what?
Yes,
So no more checking out the credit card?
no more check, well, once this is in place, no, sir.
I'm
I think-
assuming there's a,
We're looking at probably, and I don't remember the exact number, I think it was eight credit cards, and they would have the department name.
But name or number? Well, they go by names on their credit, the department head name or numbers. I think we ought to go with numbers to keep the names off of it. They'll be assigned to numbers.
No, I think what he's saying is it will say
I know.
Public Works Department, not the name of the Director of Public Works.
You still gotta have some kind of number so you can trace it.
Oh,
Right.
yes, no, it's got that, it's got that.
Will they all have their own number?
Account number.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Frank?
An account number needs to be assigned to each department so you have something to trace it with.
Each card,
Credit card should have its own account, own credit card number.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like we would say water, and we'll know that this is the card number that goes to water.
one of the reasons that staff is recommending First Horizon, their system allowed for more options than some of the other banks we talked to.
Okay, Mr. Fisher.
I thought they'd been
These,
sold.
the number $20,000, is that per department?
No, sir.
That's the grand total.
Yes, sir.
So if Parks and Rec runs up a $10,000 bill, that means all the other departments only got $10,000 to use during that month, correct?
Correct.
Who's gonna control this?
Each individual department head first, and second, it'll be controlled through the finance department and our purchasing procedures.
And-
This is clear. Just because you're using a credit card, you still have to go through the town's purchasing policy.
And if they need to get a PO instead of the credit card, they need, apparently somebody's gonna tell them, hey, this is,
Well, no, and there's many times when a PO is issued and we still pay by credit card.
no.
Well, tell me that, they can spend,
Can I finish?
yes, you
Let Mr.
can.
finish,
I'm
please.
sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
If the $20,000 goes to the thing, and say Chief over there uses $10,000 and Dennis uses another $10,000, that means nobody can spend any more money. And Parks and Rec wants to go, hey, I need a bingo machine. Well, too bad. 20,000 per,
In my
City?
opinion, sir, 20,000 is too low, but that's what was discussed.
okay, I'm just trying to get the
I-
answer.
Is that per year?
When we got the first credit card 2 years ago, it was 5,000. And we had to go back and go through a procedure to get it raised to 8.
Okay.
But I tell you, what we need to look at long-term is we should be doing more electronic purchasing and not as many checks as we're doing. And this is a way to do that.
Can I ask a simple question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
Who picked the $20,000 number? Was that the town of Oakland or was that the card issuer?
I was not involved in that discussion. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Is this $20 for how long, 20,000 for how long? A month, a year, or 6 months? Month?
It would be, yes, it'd be a month, but it'd probably be a 6-week period with a turnover on getting paid and all, but yes. It's 20,000 any one time. If the board wants to increase that, we can go back to the bank.
I just think it needs to be controlled.
Well, what's the number, where do people have to start getting POs and getting bids and stuff like that? Where's the break point? I mean, they can spend under $500. Anything between 500 and what? 2,500? That seems low.
Well,
I think it's,
you've got the inconsistencies in the purchasing ordinances that need to be reconciled.
That's what I'm thinking.
25 to 5 is, and I didn't bring my purchasing ordinances with me tonight. I think it's 25 to 5 is the, three quotes, 5 to 10. There's another step, over 10, you've gotta go through a bidding process.
so,
You got a conflicting ordinance, and we discussed this, I think, in a workshop, that allows customary purchases, whatever that means, to be bought up to $10,000
yes.
without even quotes.
So right now, under $500, they can buy whatever they want. Between 500 and 2,500, they have to get a purchase order. And then anything over that, they have to bid.
10,000.
Quote-unquote customary purchases, Mr. Vice Mayor, and
Anything over 10 has to be bidded by law.
we need to
Absolutely, we need to clean that up.
get that reconciled.
Because this is how people stay out of
Chief Wall.
March work session.
This is how people keep from getting prosecuted.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a point for you right now. Mr. Wall, if you gotta have a piece of equipment that breaks and you gotta have it today to save somebody's life tonight,
He
and
can get
it
it.
costs $10,000,
He can
you
get it.
can't buy it?
Yes. Yes, he can. That's
Well, I
emergency.
only even get an
On emergency basis.
On an emergency basis,
Right.
okay,
On an emergency basis, they can.
okay. Mr. J, what is your recommendation on the amount of money that these cards should be allowed for a month?
May I propose we leave it at 20,000? I don't know how that number's determined. If it can be increased, we'll come back with a resolution to increase it.
Okay,
And can you put all this on a session, the next one?
Okay.
To look at the
we worked,
tier levels and all that we were just discussing?
The work session on the 2nd of March, I will be out of town, and if we're gonna talk about purchasing ordinances, I need to be here.
you're correct.
We'll do it the next one.
How many departments do we have? 6?
All right,
But, so, I'm sorry, hold on. Well, it kinda comes back to what you said, we have 8 departments. So, 20,000, that means everybody can spend about $2,500.
or if it's an emergency, they can go to Mr. Johnson and get it.
Well, I'm talking about the limit on the credit card.
Well, they're gonna, yeah.
Okay.
The procedure, yeah, okay. I would recommend we approve a credit card procedure tonight when you set up the rules and regulations.
Make a motion.
Have a motion to approve,
Second.
have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. J, you got a lot of work on that one. Mr. Tom, you actually will bill us hours on that one, I suspect. All right, moving on to resolution 2324, annual fireworks show for July 1. Motion to hear.
Motion.
Have a motion, Mr. Case. Mr. J,
We have funds in the FY 23 budget for the annual fireworks.
I'm sorry, how much?
8,000, wasn't it?
14,000?
14.
Back in January, rather than doing bids, a request for proposals was issued. What can you provide for $14,000? We got 2 proposals, one from Impact Pyro of Goodlettsville and one from, High Tech Special Effects of Eads. Both are in order. Both companies have a good reputation in the industry from the reference checks we did last year. It's up to the board. I will say Impact Pyro is the firm that we used last year.
Who is Pyro?
Impact Pyro.
they did a good job.
What day can they do it, did they say?
This is for Saturday, July 1st.
Both of them can do it, right?
Both these can do it on Saturday, July 1st.
Okay.
Is there a reason why we shouldn't just stay with the company we went
I
with
make-
last year?
I
'Cause
make
they
a
did a
mo-
good job.
I make a motion, we stay with the same company did last year.
Second.
Have a motion second to stay with the company that did it last year, which is,
Impact Pyro.
Impact
Impact.
Pyro.
Can I ask a question?
yes, sir, you can.
We have 2 things on here. We have a pretty good fireworks show for $14,000. We also have a really good fireworks show for $16,000. Are we voting to just stay with the same company and decide which show we want later? Or are we gonna stay with the $14,000 amount?
The motion was for
We gotta stay what was in the
$14,000
budget.
That's what was budgeted.
That budget, you gotta stay with it.
Okay. I'm good, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion on the floor
And a second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
I'm trying to get a bigger show.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
unfortunately, it's not budgeted.
Set your ponytail on fire.
Okay, moving on. Consideration of business items, acknowledging Oakland Chamber of Commerce request for festivals authorizing a fee waiver. Mr. J.
You have an email from the Oakland Chamber giving the dates for the Spring Fest at Oakland in October, and they are requesting that the town waive the fees for those events.
We did that in the fall, didn't we?
Excuse me?
We did that in the fall,
Yes,
didn't
sir,
we?
you did.
We
Make
advise
it-
yes.
For both,
Is,
I make a motion, we do
is
it.
there a member of the
Mr. Fisher has a question here now.
Is there a member here to like to speak on it?
Yes.
It's clean cut? You just want the waiver?
We would like to have the vendor fees waived for both of those events. Otherwise, we won't be able to have the events because no vendors can afford to pay the fee.
We have done this in the past.
I make a motion, we do it.
You satisfied with that? Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Case. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Ms. Homer. All in favor?
Aye.
It's between her and I.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, moving on. That's approved. B, review a proposal for FCS Sports to conduct spring and summer youth sports for Oakland Parks and Recreation. Mr. J.
Did you print that?
The mayor had requested that we have this discussion tonight, whereby the Fellowship of Christian Athletes would, provide the administration and programming of our spring and summer sports. They have, provided to the town a proposal to do that. It's in your packet.
My comment on this is that I met with Mr. O'Brien. Did you step to the podium, Mr. O'Brien?
It's not in my packet.
I met with Mr. O'Brien over a cup of coffee, and I asked him, could he look at a proposal? And my comment to him was that the city would maintain the fields. That was our only obligation. He would collect the fees, buy the uniforms, do everything related to it. That was the general gist of our conversation. I then told him that if he had an interest, to contact Mr. Johnson, and they could work out the details, and then we would let legal look at it. So that is what I did based on our conversations from the past meeting. Now, Mr. J, I'll go back to you and see where we're at.
Well, I was provided a rough draft proposal, and I went back with several comments on it, and, that's kind of where we are right now.
Mr. Tom, have you had a chance to review that proposal?
Well, I reviewed it, late yesterday. I think it may have been yesterday that you and I talked, Tuesday. Weeks get away.
Tuesday evening, late night.
All right, the weeks get away quickly. I did review it yesterday, late. I did send it up late yesterday to MTS Legal, requesting their opinion. And Mr. O'Brien and I, full disclosure, go way back. He was the former chairman of the Fayette County Board of Education. And we've had issues involving when can a public body enter into contracts with religious organizations, and when is it proscribed. Generally, the rule of thumb is, and this is what MTS has sent an opinion back on today, is that the towns can make town facilities available to religious organizations, provided that those availabilities are open to all, that, all religions, religions that don't believe in religion. Where the line it gets crossed is where there are engagements between public bodies and religious organizations where the town would be deemed to be a sponsor of a particular religious organization over another religious organization. That then gets into this whole, and I see Mr. Rounds out in the audience. He's much more of a constitutional expert than I am, but I've unfortunately had to delve into the Constitution quite a bit myself. It gets into issues of whether or not it's a violation of the Establishment Clause under the First Amendment. MTS is of the opinion that this contract probably is more of an agreement that fits into the latter category than the former. So that's where I've gotten with it over the course of 24 hours.
So
Now, the other issue that has been mentioned to me in very strong terms whether or not, PE Partners, Legal should also weigh in on whether or not they would provide, coverage if there were, say, some, individual or group, that felt that they might be excluded or not welcomed. And again, this is not, an area of, there would need to be definitely some opinions from, PE, Partners Legal, on this as well.
Just for clarification, what's PE Partners?
That's our insurance carrier, Public Industry Partners. They have our general liability, workers' comp, all of our insurance.
Let me put this in terms that I understand. The agreement, if we enter into it, should say that it should be an agreement where anybody that lives in the town of Oakland or wants to participate can participate regardless of who they are, what they are, where they are, and all that stuff. Is that correct?
If it's an agreement that's going to be entered into with a religious organization, yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, did you say that was for access to the property? Correct.
Well,
So that any
for
other
participation in the program. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, are you going to open up the comments to the board?
I am ready. I've made my comments. Your turn, Ms. Humble.
Thank you, sir. I've given a lot of consideration to this, and what I'd like to say is that Oakland is, as we all know, a widely diverse in religion, ethnicity, backgrounds, marital status, et cetera, et cetera. In reading the public document that the town of Oakland is considering to pass, I do have concerns regarding Attachment B of the FCA Sports Municipal Partnership Agreement entitled the Christian Community Statement, particularly the legality of the document and the restrictions built in and the inherently biased and prejudicial requirements of the proposal. The list of prohibited persons plainly violates constitutional, quote-unquote, equal protection of the laws that Oakland is obligated by the 14th Amendment to provide. Separating Oakland itself from an obligation to restrict the specified classes does not protect members of the specific classes from being rejected or otherwise discriminately treated by the fellowship if they are given control of the parks and recreation activities. The proposed contract does not protect Oakland from suit by third parties because the early draft of the proposed contract contains a list of demands to prohibit persons of specified classes to participate or serve in the parks and recreation activities contemplated in the proposed contract. By agreeing to delegate parks and recreation activities to the control of the fellowship, Oakland will be liable to any discriminatory actions suffered by persons participating or attempting to participate in parks and recreation activities. In addition, the contract contains a term that requires a portion of the proceeds earned by the concession vendors to be paid by the vendors to the fellowship contractor. The present sole concession contractor is the American Legion, who leases the concession building at Cypress Creek Park from the town of Oakland. The American Legion is a charity organization that's operated by volunteers whose purpose is to support the community and the veterans' needs using assets and supplies donated and earned by the volunteers. To divert the funds of the Legion to the fellowship would diminish or eliminate the public service objective of the volunteers and the Legion accept, and it is unacceptable. If future concession agreements are to be sought, the same disincentives would diminish the benefits to vendors and the community. Rejecting the fellowship contract will be due to the discriminatory rules initially disclosed and currently in the contract because of their discriminatory intent and effect, not due to their origin in the protected religious values of the fellowship. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Hummel made her comments. Anybody else got a comment?
I do.
Mr. Case?
I'm going, even if it comes to a vote, I'm gonna excuse myself anyway. But I know Brian, I know what kind of people he's worked with. I know Mr. Fox there that's helping him. And I can assure you that he is far as I know, and I know a lot of people, he has worked with a lot of kids in the state of Tennessee and probably other places. And I guarantee you, I promise you on my life, that he would never discriminate against anybody, because that is not in him. He is out there for the kids, for the right reason, and for that, I will stand up for him. But if it comes to a vote, I'll excuse myself, because I know him and Mr. Fox both.
Okay. Mr. Fisher, any comment?
Yes. I received this on Thursday, the first draft. And the first draft has got a lot of, how would I say, questionable words. And what I mean by that, it says they can discriminate. Well, the town of Oakland cannot discriminate against anybody, okay? The Constitution says we cannot discriminate against anybody. And to allow a church organization to take over our programs, and, I mean, it says right here, we have the right that you have to do this. If you don't do this, we have a right to go to the church and say, now, I know he submitted another draft that cleans up what he did, but guess what? There's still stuff in there that says the same thing. I cannot in good conscience allow the town to discriminate against anybody.
Okay,
I don't care who they are.
okay. You have a comment, Mr. Wiggins?
I don't have a problem so much with religious organizations working with the town. I'm a Christian myself. Even if you're not, and you're with another religion, I think that that is in some cases acceptable. I don't have a problem with Mr. O'Brien. I don't have a problem with FCS. My biggest two concerns, I guess my biggest two concerns are, well, first off, what the attorney just told me. If it's not legal, I'm going to have a great difficulty supporting this. My second concern is, and you called me twice, we talked about this twice, and I think both times I said the same thing. We tried this before. We had someone come in, a private organization, to do sports through our town as an entity. I have no problem if Oakland runs sports for our kids. I have no problem if a private entity runs sports for our kids. What the breakdown comes when a private entity comes and tries to run sports through our Parks and Rec department. I don't like that at all. I think I told you both times, I don't like it. I don't think it's gonna work. You wanna do it yourself, we do it. We do have a Parks and Rec department. We are taking soccer registrations. Do you feel confident we can provide sports for our kids?
I do. It's probably gonna be a rocky start to get things going, but I do, yes, sir.
I spent 4 years on a Parks and Rec board. I'm a Parks and Rec guy. I don't know.
Mr. O'Brien, I will give you an opportunity to make some comments.
I respect each of your opinions. We're starting, as I told you, Mr. Mayor, as I told you, Mr. Johnson, we're starting a program. We already started tackle football last year. We worked in conjunction with some of our schools, our local schools, Fayette County schools, and using their properties, as well as providing an opportunity for some of their student athletes that would not have an opportunity to play, that they would be able to come and play with us so that we could help develop them in the sport of football. So that being said, we are starting a program with or without Oakland. The question was, and as I told you, Mr. Wiggins, trying to be nice and not put a detrimental situation to Oakland Parks and Rec program. We have drawn residents from Arlington, away from Arlington's program, away from Clareville's program, away from Germantown's program. I dare say that's probably not the case with Oakland Parks and Recreation. We do what we do with excellence, and we do what we do to minister and to serve kids and parents. We're going to proceed with our program whether or not we are in an agreement with Oakland or whether or not we're in competition with Oakland. And my
my position was to be that it would be successful and beneficial for the citizens of Oakland, for there not to be competition, but rather to be one. So I don't know where that leaves you. If there may be a situation where maybe we evaluate, we're not in an agreement of a partnership, which I would agree is probably the best thing, but more so access to be able to either lease or use the fields that you currently have.
That would be a better proposal.
Now, the bad thing is you're not even in the 11th hour. You're in the 12th hour for soccer season. Your soccer season is currently under registration.
Yes.
Grossly under what it should be as far as numbers. Your season starts March the 20th.
In a few weeks.
Right.
I just think this agreement is rushed. Mr. Fisher's right. I just got this yesterday. I don't even have a piece of paper. I got to turn on my phone, and then everybody in the audience are watching at home. You're like, well, he's just up there playing Candy Crush or something, you know. But I got to read stuff on the phone. I miss Missy Vaughn. I hope she gets better quickly. This is a mess.
The other unusual situation, which Mr. O'Brien probably understands better than most, is that I think most of the facilities would be facilities owned by the Fayette County Board of Education, which are under lease by Oakland.
Yes.
So you would have that additional layer of legalities to address.
Well, how would the schools feel about this?
The schools are currently ready for me to take it over, whether you do it or not. I've already been in contact with the athletic director and working on providing with them programs for their schools that they do not offer. So we're already, as I said, we're already moving forward throughout the entire county rather than just Oakland. We're focused on the entire county, and we're going to move that direction.
Okay, let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
The discriminatory statements that concern the board members here, are they in your agreement with the school district?
We would provide our services as, just as anything else. We and other organizations that are religious organizations go in and do after-school care. We do all different types of things. And so just by being in an agreement with an organization doesn't mean that you're agreeing with all of their, or that you are making their standards your standards. Okay? And I understand your hesitation, but it's not something that we back up on. We have a firm foundation. We believe that coaches are instrumental in the development of student athletes and for our leadership. Now, one thing that was mentioned that was incorrect is it is not for participants. We do not discriminate on any participants. The discrimination that you see or that you would call discrimination would be on our ministry leaders and on our head coaches.
Okay, when I read the agreement tonight, preparing my statement for tonight, while I referenced the attachment B that concerns the partnership agreement, the Christian community statement, and in your proposal, it says the volunteers will adhere to the statement. So, and again, even though you say, well, Oakland's not going to be, this isn't going to be directed at them, to me then, you are influencing the children that are going to be participating in this. And to me, if you're saying a volunteer will follow this attachment B, these are people then that can't go home and have a glass of wine with their dinner, or can't do things like that, or you got to be a Christian. And a lot of people aren't going to be Christians, and unless they profess their faith to be a Christian, they can't be a volunteer in your organization. But that's what's in,
Sir,
that's what's in your
whoa,
agreement.
You're not a part of this, so I'll ask you to be quiet and let Mr. O'Brien answer. Thank you.
What is our next step, Mr. Mayor?
Okay. Do you have any other comments you want to make?
No, again, like I said, I think that obviously, and I agree, and I understand the position of the city.
Yes, sir.
Completely understand it. As well, I would hope that you would respect our position from our standard, biblical standard, that it's non-negotiable for us. So,
I understand.
therefore, I think that probably the best thing to do would be to evaluate, does Oakland, I've lived here for 17 years. Every one of my children have been involved in Oakland Parks and Recreation for 17 years. In 17 years, there's never been a level of excellence. It's never could argue that COVID probably did a lot of damage because you had 2 years of people just sitting out, right? So it's difficult to get them back in. But again, you've been through 5 directors in 6 years. Is that correct? Is that a correct statement?
Pretty close, yeah.
So the question would be, are you in a position to manage such programs? And so if not, we're moving forward whether or not we,
I understand.
are benefit to the city of Oakland or whether or not we're competition.
Okay.
So I appreciate your consideration, appreciate your time. I wouldn't want anybody to feel like they were sacrificing, their position. So I would say if we move forward, it would just be, you tell me what it costs to lease the property that, we'll use and use with excellence and grow forward.
Okay, Mike, I will close with this comment. Fellowship of Christian Athletes is an outstanding organization. I've observed it as a school superintendent for a lot of years. I'm very well aware of it. It is. I think the problem we get into is the legalities involved. And I think there's just enough uncertainty under the board that I'm not sure we're gonna approve this tonight at all. So, I respect you. I wouldn't have talked to you in the first place. You and I have good relations. I think your organization will do a good job and will do well. That is my own personal comment on this. Now, I'll take a motion for the board. I believe, Mr. J, we either have to approve this or not approve it. Is that correct?
Or if you take no action, it dies.
Okay. So that might be the best approach.
Correct.
Hearing no motion, dies for lack of an action. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Thank you. And sir, I apologize if you felt I was being rude, but that is our procedure. One person talk. All right, moving on. Review of American Post 292 donation request, Mr. J.
We received this request late last week. It is in your packet. American Legion Post 292 is requesting a donation from the town. Sorry, I believe the amount was $500.
That's correct.
Okay, you have someone from the post here, you want to come forward? While he's coming forward, Mr. Cates, I'm not sure about this. Can you give me some historical perspective on this?
Do we have to have a motion?
Nothing against them personally, but, and this board wasn't here at the time, excuse me. But this was brought up 2 or 3 years ago to the board, and Mr. Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was either carried to a vote, a resolution, or ordinance or something that was wrote up on charity. Do you remember that?
I have a general recollection of it, but nothing specific. I mean, I have a file on it in the office, but I was not prepared to vote on it tonight.
Well, I wouldn't vote on something that,
Okay.
tonight, that I think that, till I'm sure that we're right to do this, and it's nothing personal to anybody, I just wanna make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay. I have a concern, and I'll hear you just want to get through here. Sir, I have a concern on acting on this until I'm sure what the past resolution was all about.
Agreeable?
Okay, so that is my concern. And Mr. Wiggins?
Do we give Fayette Cares $2,000 a year? I think that's in our budget, is it not?
I'm sorry, I can't remember the amount, but a donation if it cares, yes.
Do we donate to the Carl Perkins Center?
Yes.
So if we're questioning this as a violation of law, we've already violated that law.
Violation resolution, not a law.
Okay.
I simply didn't know this was going to be addressed for me tonight, otherwise I would have definitely been prepared. But I think you're right.
I'm not arguing it one way or the other, I just wanna make sure we're doing the right thing, cause it
I
was voted on.
understand, and if from a philosophical standpoint, people don't like taking taxpayer money and giving it to charities, and I agree with that to an extent. But we take tax money from people who never have kids and give it to the school system. You know, we have, we're in a small community and we have a limited number of charities. Obviously, Carl Perkins provides a service to our citizens from time to time, as does Fayette Cares. I want someone to recall a town event anytime in the past couple of years where the American Legion was requested to be there and they declined.
I'm not arguing that, Adrian. I'm just saying that it was something voted on 2 or 3 years ago, and I would like to know for sure which way it went before we vote. I'm not,
I
nothing
don't,
against them.
I
They
don't
do a
understand
good
how
job.
I don't understand how we have questions about some charities and others we don't.
I have no question other than I wanna do what if there's a resolution, we need to honor that resolution or change it.
It was something come up. I don't remember what it
You sure
was.
can, sir.
Can I withdraw that request and resubmit that by Mr. Minor, I think your name is, as an option for the board to look at it and have it?
Would
Because
you
if
do
let
that
it die-
for us?
If you let it die,
Okay.
are we not able to submit it again?
You
I think
can.
if you withdraw and come back, that'd be a wise course of
I
action.
do too.
I would like to withdraw that for the donation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to make a suggestion, because you guys do. You guys come out when we open sports. You come out and you march in our parades. I'm familiar with your work. Let's not forget, they donated their time to repair a bridge that we argued about for years and years and years. If you withdraw this tonight and you check with Mr. Minor and you resubmit it, the only request that I would have is that you not ask for $500. I think we should give you guys $1,000.
But I'd like to, I've been a long time since I know Robert's rules. I'd like to withdraw that request.
I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you. So
I
we'll
do
find
not-
out.
I personally, if you need some money, I'll personally make a donation to you at any time.
Well, I appreciate that.
But I wanna do something legal
All
for the city.
I'd like to say, well, one thing I'd like to say to the board is thank you for renaming the park. I don't know if anybody told you, from a veteran group, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We passed it along in our group, and everybody's kind of excited about seeing what kind of changes we could possibly make down there to honor everybody. You know, go from that, but that's all I want to say.
Well, it was our intent to honor the veterans who did the work down there and honor the veterans who served our country. And the board
Thank you.
was very unanimous in doing that, so.
Our plan is to erect a sign this spring.
Yes, that's what I understand, yes. Now, well, I'll talk to you after the meeting, let's get out of here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. We will get back with you next month if you will get with Mr. Minor.
The mayor will meet you with his checkbook in the hall after
I will.
the conclusion of the meeting.
That is no doubt, I will.
$500, is that the amount?
Voted on.
Don't go giving an amount out to me. I'm sorry, someone have a question?
No.
No, they got comments.
We need to go back
Oh,
to the
yes.
resolution with Debbie.
Resolution,
Got all mine throwed over here now.
We removed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we moved it to move it so we could talk about it later.
I wrote down removed.
well, we
Okay.
did remove it from the
Alright.
consent agenda.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out to
What
me.
number is this?
Okay, this is the one that you asked to be pulled, is that correct?
Did, that is
Do
correct.
I have a motion to hear resolution 2325?
Motion
21,
2321,
2321.
she has to be removed
Not,
from the consent agenda.
okay, so look, Mayor, go back a page. No, just go back a page. On the consent agenda, she
Yeah,
asked that
23,
resolution 23.
I make a motion to hear it.
There, motion.
Second,
All right.
Hold on, let me find it.
Okay. Have a motion to hear. Mr. J, you want to comment on it?
This is an amendment to the existing development agreement contract for Cross Creek Plan Development Phase 3. This was, reviewed by the town's engineer and our town attorney. You see the change has to do with the, meter box and related, infrastructure. Who initiated this?
This was initiated by Mr. King. He was of the opinion after, reviewing, the development, and I don't know whether Ed, may know a bit more about the technicals of this, but that the and I don't even know what saddle, corporation stop, service lines, curb stop, yokes, I know what a meter box is, but nevertheless, that they only apply to some of the lots, but not all of the lots.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I have a resolution in front of me, and it authorizes the mayor to execute addendum number 1.
You should have addendum number 1 in your packet.
I do
I
not
did
have.
not.
I
I
do
did
not
not
have
have
addendum
addendum
number
one.
1 in my packet, and I don't like voting on things that I don't know that I'm voting on.
This could be deferred till March.
I have,
I'm sorry,
yeah, I got everything in the world from it. I did a lot of research on that, as you know, Mr. J. But well, I've also got, that was sent, is the copy of what we call the red line contract that had the changes that were written up in red line. And then I got a copy of the black one that incorporated the changes in that. But scrolling through and looking paragraph by paragraph, I also see an item that was deleted, which was on page 8 of the red line. It shows that in paragraph 2-1K, that it said that, and that was completely deleted. And that was the part that was about for the purpose of requesting conditional acceptance, but, and it doesn't appear, it was deleted because it doesn't appear in the black issue. But wait a minute, but when I look at, 2.3B in the red line and 2.3B in the black line, they're still there, it's identical, what's the change? Is that addendum, the elusive addendum that we don't have? Because I'd like to see exactly what it is, because it's the same in the red line and it's the same in the black line.
I have the red line.
Okay.
I never get the final, but I have my red line. There was a subparagraph 2.1K
All right.
that was deleted and substituted a new subparagraph K, and all that addresses the fact that the developer has to install the final course of asphalt before the recording of the final plat.
Correct.
Now, was that in the original agreement, or is that at this addendum?
That was not in the original agreement.
It's not on this addendum either.
Like I said, I only have the red line.
But K has disappeared in the black line, which is the final one to be voted on. It needs to reappear. Well, it's not in it right now. But when I look at the 0.3B, to me, it's the same in the red line and it's the same in the black line. I thought it was changed.
May I propose this be deferred to March?
Yes, well, these are the things I want to clear it up so we
I
can.
would like to hear what,
We will pull this down and defer it to the March meeting.
well,
Thank you.
I would still like to hear what Mr. Corton has to say.
I don't have a problem with that. We're all in agreement with pulling it down. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Mr. Corton, would you like to contribute to this mess?
Not particularly, but I'm gonna throw a little bit in here. It was an issue of technical specifications that drive this whole thing. Josh is here if you want to quickly talk about that. Otherwise, if you're gonna defer to next month, we can do that.
I
But
think
that was the whole crux of the matter, was specifications that needed, that didn't.
Talking about it, we're gonna defer it.
The way you do that, you go through this process, and sometimes it's a little scary.
Well, since we had the little, as you say, I would suggest that we, and knowing Miss Hummel as I do, and that she reads every line of everything that's ever been published and sent to her, we need to make sure that she is satisfied with this, and I want her to be satisfied, because I know if she's satisfied, it's gonna be legal. So, we will defer it and let you guys come back and talk to us about it next month. All right. Do we have any other business, Mr. J?
No, sir, you have the invoice.
Okay. I'll ask the board to review the invoices, and I'll take a motion when you're ready.
I've brought this up before. I'm looking at the first two items on my list, invoice date 1/23. It has not been 45 days since January 23rd. The next thing says January 19th. It has not been 45 days since January 19th. If we're gonna start reviewing things and town policies and stuff, I want some clarification on that. That was just a statement.
Okay? Mr. J, you want to comment on that, or just accept the statement?
I believe,
David Kelly Jewelers from Parks and Rec Department, invoice date January 23rd, 2023. Invoice number, purchase amount, reason, over 45 days.
see, but the invoice.
Hadn't even been a month.
The invoice that's attached is dated 10/3/22. The summary, either the summary, something's wrong here. I'm sorry, I don't know. But the invoice, the memo is dated 1/23, but the invoice is 10/3/22.
Is this something Mr. Bond
Yes.
would need to explain?
Yes,
Okay,
I can.
okay. When, we'll have, Mr. Wiggins, with your permission, we'll have Mr. Bond give us an explanation of how she decides that.
Can we
Would you
defer
turn?
this till next month?
We gotta pay the bill.
Ooh, we gotta pay,
You gotta pay your bills.
Well, I know you gotta pay your bills, but you gotta have them right to be paid.
I got a question. How am I supposed to read this?
you're supposed to take his word for it, Mr. Cates.
Sir, that is what we received. I hear you. I couldn't read it either.
No,
What's this towing bill?
The towing bill, and Chief Gaines is here, and he can address it as well. There was some dispute as to whether that should be charged to the town or not.
Chief, would you like to comment on that?
It was Wally's for $165 last June.
I know you remember that exact bill, Chief.
This was a dispute on the vehicle that was being towed. And they put a false description, so I denied it when I first got the invoice. After a lot of research back and forth, it was a vehicle that we seized and took to our impound lot. They listed the wrong vehicle and then they corrected it. Problem is they didn't correct the invoice date, which made us look like we were holding the invoice. We did tow it, we are responsible for it.
So it is a legitimate bill.
Yes, sir.
The semantics is what caused the problem. Okay.
And when the person goes to get we get reimbursed for this?
The way it works is when we take a vehicle to our impound lot, if we're seizing it and we have to give the vehicle back, they are still responsible for the record bill. If we're awarded the vehicle, the city eats that record bill because we end up selling the vehicle, recouping our money.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Tires be worth $165.
Okay.
make a motion.
Have a motion to accept the bills.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else, Mr. J?
No, sir.
Mr. Cates?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. The gentleman from the American Legion, could I talk to you just a minute?
Yes.
Jason.
Chips and salsa is the code.
Tell him the truth.
Right, real. That's good, I'll give you that, that was good.
I was sitting up there laughing.
Thanks for your service. We are going to work with you. We have not got to that point yet. We have a Boy Scout that expressed an interest in it.
Is there a way that maybe we can put into that?
Certainly, we can work something out on that.
You know, just maybe not all of us, but like the force commander be involved a little bit.
If we, I would give Mr. Johnson, if we decide to do a Boy Scout, they always need help with materials and everything.
We end up with a job maybe
Come on.
Yes, that's usually who comes here looking for a project. Yeah. So,
I think he's with that troop. Well, that's easy.
okay. Well, if you've got a kid that's ready to do something, we can put it together. If not, you know, I will assure you we'll give you some input. All right? Thanks again, gentlemen. Ed? Mr. O'Brien.
Thanks, sir. We're just gonna start from the beginning. What's the cost of Our website with take registration this coming Monday, so we'll decide when we're going to turn this out, and maybe I'll try to have one season, make successful, or,
Well, I thought we had a program that was gonna work out.